Until Then is an interactive visual novel that tackles the subject of your mind and reality around you, and it does it quite well. It's kinda difficult to go into detail about this game without also spoiling some important details, which I will try to leave out as to not spoil you completely if you want to experience this game for yourself. I'm definitely not the type of person who has the patience to actually sit down and read through a book, let alone a visual novel, for hours at a time, as I'm definitely one that needs some form of strong bond or stimulation to become fully immersed, especially when there are no voice actors and there are extremely long drawn-out events that build the story up, but also feel like they're taking away from the whole experience. This could be with the thematic style of the game, alternative realities, slice of life relatability, comedy, or just a very well written cast of characters that really click with you as the observer looking in. There are a vast number of visual novels out there that really don't appear all that interesting until you really get sucked into their worlds and attempt to grasp what they are truly all about. This could be Steins Gate, Suckers for Love, Danganronpa, Doki Doki Literature Club, Andy and Lele, and so many countless others that each have their own distinctive style of expressing themselves to the viewer and conveying whatever experience that they are trying to explore with you, while also being extremely compelling rather than overly slow and boring. Until Then is no different. After playing through their promotional demo back in 2023, I was completely engrossed in their world at the edge of my seat for 2 hours straight, and I just could not wait to learn more about the characters and to have a much deeper understanding of the feelings and relationships and exactly what the hell was going on in this world with the events that were playing out before me. This game feels so familiar and nostalgic, like a reflection of my own life, or at the very least portions of my life experience growing up, as portrayed by a few of the characters such as Catherine, a young girl who has an immensely goofy and outgoing personality, who's always trying to give to others and keep her friends happy, but also hides a darkness that lurks beneath it all. I actually continued to mix this game up with another game called A Space for the Unbound, which addressed many of the same components, including the school life, the world falling apart, and even the visuals, which strengthened my connection to the overall experience, since this game's topic is all about one's memories and not being able to distinguish them from one another. I found it impossible to pull myself away from it until the very end, and even then there was still so much more to experience once it was over, because there was so much more to it than that. Many players believe that the story ends at the credits 9 hours in, which it may for some, but the game actually continues, which also contributes to that experience. It's actually more or less 20 hours long, but if you paid attention, it really brings out that understanding from you. The major subject here is primarily knowing oneself and their limitations on what they can and just can't do, with a slice of life experience told through a handful of the main characters. You actually get to know them for who they are, what their future goals are, and how they deal with their own emotions. It appeared disorganized at first, but if you paid attention closely, again, I believe it was because they were trying to keep you guessing about what was actually going on by dropping little hints here and there with their wild theories and visual representations. All of which helps keep you in the dark until you advance further into the story, which is spread out over numerous playthroughs, but the way that it's done is so excellent, and I don't want to spoil it any further, so it's something you must feel for yourself, else I do not believe you will be able to appreciate it in its entirety as you grow attached to each and every character. It felt much more grounded than most visual novels do. Instead of delving into the more complex topics that make your head spin, it tried to focus on everyday human challenges and emotions. It helps you, or at the very least it helped me, recognize that everybody is similar in their own unique ways, and there are a number of different tactics people use to cope with trauma, whether it be with positivity or negativity. So you should be more honest with others, and more importantly, be more honest with yourself. It's definitely a much more slower paced visual novel than what I'm used to, which may be an issue for those who just can't stand some of the really lengthy discussions about school life, education, and many other topics with the very drawn out cutscenes, such as how they constantly return to the topic of musical escape with the minute-long piano and musical scenes, all the while having sound effects and other sounds layered in on the background instead of being drowned out when the music starts, and that's probably my only criticism, as it was the only part that actually put me to sleep or annoyed me. It definitely could have been shorter and no longer than 2 minutes instead of feeling like a complete waste of time. This is a cinematic masterpiece when it comes to incorporating pixel graphics and scene changes into the higher resolution interactions between you, your friends, and your family. Even A Space for the Unbound utilized similar techniques, but this game expanded upon them, which I just can't get out of my head even after finishing both experiences. It's a strange feeling to play a game about struggling with your mind and memories and yourself while also struggling with your own in reality due to the previous encounter with another game that tackles a somewhat similar topic in the exact same way, like they were both colliding together and making it harder and harder to distinguish one experience from the other. I don't believe that many people will ever be able to really understand this for what it is, since unless it gets famous through influential YouTubers or streamers, I don't think it will receive the recognition that it so desperately deserves. Every single character in this game is relatable. I don't often have that connection. I usually at the very least have one character that I hate, but I just couldn't here because I kept understanding why they were like the way that they were. It might be through yourself, a friend, a family member, or classmates, or even the interactive discussions via the group chats or private DMs, Facebook links, and shared postings. Not to mention the stunning uses of visual stimulation and the other methods that they use to direct their visual art design throughout everything that you did. It's bound to leave you speechless or at the very least eager to experience more. I wouldn't say you necessarily play this game since it is very linear in the sense that you are going left to right, interacting with a few elements while having conversations. I mean, it is a visual novel, so you are intended to read more than play, but there are some highly engaging and enjoyable bits that do help break up the tempo and give you something to do every now and again. While still communicating with your friends, family, and others, this could be with a few mini-games or interacting with some of the elements while exploring. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is without a doubt one of the best visual novels I've ever had the privilege of playing, as it felt like it was speaking to me directly. Everything about this game felt so real, and it didn't feel like a game at all, almost as if the developers were attempting to convey their own small story without inventing something and making it feel like a fantasy. It felt like real people, real challenges, and real anguish that was only growing worse as the story progressed until its end. I wouldn't put it on the same level as past games that have emotionally destroyed me, but it definitely was difficult to hold back tears because it was so relatable in so many of the scenarios. Do not pass up this opportunity if you're somebody who enjoys visual novels or just incredibly emotional stories, or even if you have friends who do. Please, give this game the recognition that it deserves and help more people experience it because you will not be disappointed.